At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them.
And that's when she looked in the rearview mirror.
Some technology from another dimension, another world.
You're still afraid.
I don't know what it was.
No sign of life left except...
This will scare you.
Hello, I'm Shannon Brown, and this will scare you. My guests today are Allison Everett, an art historian and stylist who runs an art bookshop at a contemporary art museum in Edinburgh, Scotland, called the Fruit Market Gallery. Joining her is her sister, my friend, and a teacher, Julia Giordano, and their mom, Lisa McLaughlin. So this is actually my biggest recording yet. I record all of these remotely, and Julia and I are in LA. Lisa is in New Jersey 3 hours ahead, and Allie is in Scotland where it's 5 o'clock tomorrow. Or actually at this point, like 5:30 tomorrow.
I'm drinking wine because it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so Allie, what is the future like?
That's wonderful. I can't wait for you to be here.
So my story for you guys today involves hexes. And as such, anyone
Hexes or X's?
Ooh, aren't they the same?
I actually podcast is just us giggling like that the whole time. Like
oh yeah. Just like a bunch of witches, like
yeah.
Collection of women.
Yeah, before we started recording, I asked Julia how she wanted to be introduced, and she said a coven of women, and then I said collective of women. So, sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I found a hex thing that we could do with an egg today. So I will be doing it. I have my egg, and we'll pick the eggs back up later. So I'm from Pennsylvania. I know, Lisa, you're in New Jersey, and Allie and Julia both lived on the East Coast too. So when I found out about this story, I thought, you guys might find it interesting as well. So in 2015, a family in Auburn, Pennsylvania decided to start doing some home renovations. Pennsylvania winters can be icy cold and the summers can be super hot and humid, so they decided to add some insulation to certain rooms of their old house. Now, when we think about buying a house, it's a super big deal. Lots of saving, working, planning, and often home ownership takes years of work before being able to find and afford your dream home. This family was no different, and they soon realized that this was no ordinary house. When they started their project, they were horrified to find dozens of animal carcasses in the walls.
Mom, aren't you renovating some of your rooms in your house?
We're going to in about a month, yeah.
You're just going to find turkey bones.
The animals in this house were wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s, and they were among half-used spices and some other, miscellaneous items. They initially found some bones in the walls a few years before, but didn't have any idea just how expansive this was going to be. The problem with this, in addition to it just being, generally unnerving to find hundreds of bones in your walls, was that mold had begun growing inside the walls as well, and insurance didn't cover the repairs.
Can I also say, though, like, if you walked into a house and there were bones in the walls, you would friggin' smell them.
Not if they were from the 30s.
I just feel like rotting carcasses stink.
My 70-year-old one, or whatever year it is.
Math is hard.
It's just always the year 2000 for me.
Yeah.
So the mold had begun growing inside the walls, and to repair everything, it was going to be $20,000, and they had to foot the bill. So they said that the mold had actually caused certain family members to become sick, and the smell didn't go away. Kaya, the mother, said that the house was inspected before they bought it. Quote, "We got the radon inspection. We looked for everything. We just didn't know to look for chickens." So, after removing the items from the walls, they sent hundreds of artifacts and bones to an expert in Kutztown. The family was told that these items were part of powwowing, or Dutch magic. They were used to heal ailments, said Kaya. Powwow, also called brouwer, is a type of traditional medicine and folk magic from the Pennsylvania Dutch.
How many umlauts are in that word?
There are
Brouwer.
actually none. I had to Google how to say it, and I am part German, and I am from Pennsylvania, and I texted my grandmother to see, like, if she knew anything about this, because, like, I guess, like, you know, how, like, families will pass down, like, cultural, I don't know, traditions or what have you. We just never got that. So I didn't know if she knew anything about it, and it took her, like, 4 hours to respond, and she was like, "No, what is that?"
She didn't tell you that you should put chickens in your walls?
No, and maybe I
Oh.
should
How
have,
many
because
covens nearby?
I gotta find my local coven.
She's right here, baby.
Oh, yeah!
This collection of women.
Only one person.
So, powwowing combines parts of Christianity, pagan rituals, and Native American culture. Using healing charms, powwowing includes a wide range of healing rituals used primarily for treating ailments in humans and livestock, as well as securing physical and spiritual protection and just everyday good fortune. Although the word powwow is Native American, these rituals were brought to America by Germans in the 17th and 18th centuries. A practitioner is sometimes referred to as a powwower. And I saw in one of the articles I read when they were talking about the origin of the term powwower, they just wrote, colonizer's gonna colonize. So I did find this pretty interesting because I remember as a kid seeing hex signs and being told that they just had nothing to do with witches or magic. They were basically just German folk art. I'm from Bucks County, and although where I grew up was more suburban, we'd go to Lancaster where the Amish are, or different places for fairs, or even my friend's brother's house who had horses in a more rural area, and you'd see hex signs and rustic barn stars on barns and houses and even in gift shops. So hex signs go back as far as the early 19th century and reportedly were seen as a low-cost way to decorate a barn, with many of the designs representing different things. In recent years, hex signs have come to be used by non-Pennsylvania Dutch people as talismans for folk magic rather than
ask
items of decoration.
a stupid question. Is a hex sign like a pentagon?
No,
No, that's a shape. A pentagon is a shape. Oh my gosh.
You mean
Edit
a
this
pentagram?
out. I'm a teacher.
No, but it'll just be the legacy of symbology. Like,
let me send it
They're
to
usually
you.
round. They have
Northern art is laden with symbology.
Yeah,
I
so I
love
just
symbols.
texted you a
In the
picture.
70s, they were like a
Um,
decorative type of thing. People put them on their houses and put them on their.
How am I the only one who doesn't know what this is? Oh, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Okay. No, pentagram.
Well, I mean, the Pentagon is supposed to keep us safe, and pentagrams can be used for protection, I think.
Yeah.
The second one down on the left is Italian.
How do you know it's Italian?
You see it in Italian architecture all the time.
Did you look at the image, Mom?
Yeah, no, we had them all over here. People put them on their garages. It was like a decorative kind of a thing, like in the 70s. People bought them and
they're still pretty popular. You see them all over.
Yeah, so I never had any idea that there was all that meaning and symbolism behind hex signs, because where I grew up, we were just kind of told, like, that's how, I guess, Amish people decorate, but it's Pennsylvania Dutch. Who knew? Apparently Allie, because she's an art historian. So the Bible is considered the most important book in powwowing, and basically no practitioner would work without their Bible on hand. And when I say Bible, I mean like the actual Christian, Jesus Bible. There's another book called
Old Testament, New Testament. Let's talk.
New Testament.
Yeah,
That's like a
let's dive into this.
This really will scare you.
Yeah. So there's another book called The Long Lost Friend that was written in 1820. And that is a rather short book that includes spells, or as they call it, charms, talismans, wards, and benedictions, and it was readily available and widely used amongst Pennsylvania Dutch farmers. The text is also of historical interest because it brings to light the miseries of rural American life in the early 19th century. The original book is very rare, and contrary to popular assumption, there's nothing containing the dark arts in this book. This book would also be at the center of a brutal crime now known as the Hex House Murder. So the Rehmeyer family lived in a small town in Germany, and in 1841, Heinrich and Wilhelmina came to America. Together with his two brothers, Heinrich bought 96 acres in Pennsylvania, which became Rehmeyer's Hollow. They were a huge family, filling out the hollow with homes, animals, kids, and farms, and even to this day, the hollow still has many beautiful trees and lush hills. Nelson was born to Henry Rehmeyer, Heinrich's brother, and Rachel McCann in October of 1868. He lived alone in an isolated area in the hollow, and he was a potato farmer. Some people thought that he was a weird hermit, which wasn't true. He just liked to keep to himself. It was a pretty small house and was sparsely furnished. He married a local named Alice, who was 10 years younger than him, and they ended up having two daughters named Beatrice and Edna.
Great names.
Strong names to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly, he was a socialist because he had socialist literature in his house, which upset his neighbors. I guess, probably outside the hollow, property lines. Now, so far, all that I've, in reading all of this, and I even watched a documentary on it, I just kept gathering that he was essentially just a hippie potato farmer who just wanted to be left alone. And I was like, this guy sounds pretty great and would likely thrive during quarantine times. Now, Nelson was taught to powwow when he was little and grew up to be an active and well-known powwow practitioner. Back then, many people went to see powwow doctors. His wife and kids ended up leaving him in the last 4 years of his life because Nelson was apparently seeing people around the clock to help them. His wife and daughters ended up moving to another house within the hollow. Now, I thought this was interesting. So many people would go to see powwow doctors because they believed that it worked to help heal ailments or help with, any kind of misfortune that they were encountering. And powwowers never actively charged money for their services. It was kind of like a donations encouraged type thing. And I thought that was pretty cool. He's just like out there farming, minding his own business, helping people for free. And then his wife and daughters said, enough, we're getting the hell out of here. So like I said earlier, powwowing is a Christian practice, and many people believe it works and that they are acting as a conduit for God's healing. But many Christians think that it's wrong and satanic. Back when Nelson was practicing, medical professionals began a concentrated attack on powwows as conventional medicine advanced. They didn't want powwowing to negatively affect modern medicine, and essentially, they probably felt like powwowing was stealing clients. Issues powwowing helps can range from a headache all the way to being cursed. Another Pennsylvania powwower, John Blymeyer, had a really hard go of things. He did have a below-average IQ and really had to work hard to get a job. He came from a long line of powwowers, and he was working at a scarf factory. And as he left one day, a rabid dog appeared in front of the factory. He went up to it and allegedly performed some sort of charm or incantation, and the dog stopped foaming at the mouth and became docile. John Blymeyer just really had a very hard life. He transformed the rabid dog, but that's kind of about where his luck ended. He ended up marrying a woman named Lily, and they had 2 children, Richard and Josephine, but they both tragically died. Richard died at 7 weeks old, and Lily, who was born after him, only lived to be 3. He also became sick with a wasting disease, and at some points he weighed less than 100 pounds. Because of all of the tragedy and misfortune in his life, John Blymeyer became convinced that witches were following him and that he was under a hex. He truly believed he was hexed. He had actually been trained as a powwower from his father and grandfather, and he was really good at it. It was almost the only thing he was good at. When his father and grandfather could not identify who hexed him in order to break it, he was just beside himself. John did have mental issues, but back then they were not diagnosed and treated the way that they are now. He'd been in and out of hospitals, and during his last stay, he just walked out of the Harrisburg Hospital. From there, he walked 25 miles back to York, Pennsylvania, and was described as a paranoid, fearful man. Now, in Marietta County, just across the Susquehanna River, which is, compared to the last trip, just a real quick, cool 17 miles, John Blymeyer went to see a well-known witch. She went by Mrs. Nopt, Nellie Knoll, and the River Witch of Marietta, which, again, I think just sounds like it's a very cool and ideal way to be known to people in town. So apparently this lady really looked the part of a storybook witch. She was in her 70s or 90s. There's a really big age range there in all the stories. And she had long white hair and craggy skin. Blymeyer desperately wanted to know who was causing all of the tragedy in his life, and the River Witch told him to put a dollar bill in the palm of his hand. When it was removed, a picture of Raymeyer appeared. At this point, Raymeyer was living alone at 60 years old and was described as this massive, giant, powerful man, but he was only about 6'3", which is tall, but it's not superhuman. And I know your family is primarily very tall. So to hear that, back then, I can't imagine people were extremely short, but seeing your family as a family of towering mystical giants seems kind of funny, and my own boyfriend is 6'4", and I'm like, would they just consider him to be some otherworldly god? I don't understand why they thought Raymeyer was just massive.
They were smaller then. Sure.
Yeah. Even though Raymeyer and his wife had split up, they were still pretty friendly and lived relatively close in the hollow. So this witch told Blymeyer that in order to remove the hex or curse, he had to remove a lock of Raymeyer's hair and bury it 8 feet underground, and or burn his book of spells, which was the long-lost friend. The spell book was important because it's thought to be very powerful to that specific witch or powwower. Now, Blymeyer at this point was only 32 years old. He had convinced his friend and coworker, John Curry, who was 14, that he was also having terrible luck, that he too was under a curse from Nelson Raymeyer. Curry's father had died when he was 5, and his stepfather was this abusive alcoholic. And Curry, again, who was just this young teenager, said that this man, John Blymeyer, had saved his life. They met at work, and Blymeyer would powwow whatever was afflicting Curry. There's this third kid named Wilbert Hess, and he was an 18-year-old farm boy. He met Blymeyer and Curry through his father. Their family had lost their livestock, and it had been dry, so their crops were failing, and everyone at home was just getting sick with various illnesses. Hess's father was also fighting with a family member over property lines, and they thought that person had hexed them. So there's just hexes going all around in Pennsylvania. It does not matter who you are or if you're related or not, you're getting hexed. Blymeyer came in and reinforced everything that family thought, that all of the tragedy everyone was experiencing was because of a hex, and convinced them that Raymeyer was behind it all. Tensions grew, and the three men went to Raymeyer Hollow, stopping at the home of Mrs. Raymeyer and asked her where they could find her estranged husband. Now, some people report that she was like a rather sassy and allegedly said he was off with another woman he had been seeing, but ended up directing them down the road to Raymeyer's actual house. They get to Nelson Raymeyer's house and knocked on the door, and true to his nature, Raymeyer just welcomed them all in. Blymeyer and Raymeyer talked for a while about things going on in the community, powwowing, and farming. It got late, and Raymeyer invited the three to stay the night. The next morning after a big breakfast, Blymeyer and Curry go back to their home, and they realized Nelson was a very big man. They felt that he was very skilled in powwowing and that they were going to need help subduing him. So, to recap, a 6'3", 60-year-old hippie potato farmer who has people lined up for hours outside of his home so he can help them is now treating these three to a bed and breakfast situation, and their thought is, oh shit, he's going to be hard to take down and cut his hair off. So, the next day, November 28th, the three went back down to Raymeyer's house in the middle of the night and knocked on the door until they got him out of bed. They told him they thought they had left something there the night before, so he let them in. Blymeyer told Raymeyer they were there for his book, saying, "I need that and a lock of your hair." The men attacked him, a violent struggle ensued, and they beat Raymeyer unconscious. They broke his skull and caused a hemorrhage in his brain. They tied his hands and feet, and they tried to strangle him, but then they thought he was dead. So with that, they thought the curses or hexes had been broken. Blymeyer had the idea to set the body and the house on fire to burn the evidence. They ransacked the house, gathering all of Raymeyer's riches, which totaled $2.80, which today is just a little over $42. They then threw oil on Raymeyer and the floorboard around him and tossed a match down. As they walked outside the house and looked back, they thought they saw Raymeyer moving around in the flames. But wasn't that impossible? Wasn't he dead? The house didn't even burn. Something had extinguished the flames. On November 29th, Thanksgiving Day, a neighbor noticed Raymeyer's animals were making noise in the barn. He fed the animals first, tending to them, and then went to the house. He went inside and found Raymeyer's burned body. The kitchen walls had been blackened by smoke, but the structure was intact. The floor just beneath Raymeyer was burned all the way through, and all that was left was a charred floor joist, but only under his body. Nelson Raymeyer's funeral was on December 5th, 1928, and there was this huge crowd that filled the church and spilled out onto the grounds. The church had furnaces going inside, and they opened the windows in an attempt to warm the crowd that gathered but couldn't get in. After the murder, Alice, Raymeyer's estranged wife, gave the police the tip on the three men she spoke with before the murder. Blymeyer, Hess, and Curry. Do you have seagulls?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
could hear
many.
the seagulls.
I know, they're so loud.
It adds to the ambiance. So Blymeyer, Hess, and Curry, they were not apologetic at all about the murder, and they instantly confessed, saying that they did all of this because of witchcraft. The judge was trying to eliminate the use of the words witch, hex, and curse because they wanted to prosecute this case as a robbery gone wrong. But Hess's younger brother said witchcraft in his testimony, and the press just went wild with this. The murder was sensationalized and was seen as a modern-day witch hunt. Even through some hysteria, all three men were found guilty and served time in prison. The Raymeyer house is still standing and is kind of seen as an evil witch house by some. I believe it's his great-grandson owns the home now, and some people in the area even still believe that the killing was justified. I kind of found it interesting because it is, a Christian religion-based type of, like healing. A lot of it is like herbal and prayer-based. But a lot of things kind of looked like a satanic panic type of situation, like hysteria back in the 1920s. And it was said that this kind of opened the lid on Pennsylvania Dutch culture And outside of the community, the regular folks kind of twisted things into this being some sort of emergency within the community there. If anybody wanted to learn more, I highly recommend this documentary called Hex Hollow. It's on Amazon Prime. And this podcast, Morbid, also did an episode on the case. And I joined a Facebook group about Pennsylvania. And I had asked people in it if they had any stories relating to like powwowing or Pennsylvania Dutch people. And this guy named Jeremy said, there's been sort of a story about a witching tree on an Amish farm in Berks County outside of Womelsdorf, where his dad is from. There's actually like quite a few witching trees in the area, apparently. Most of these stories, though, were made by outsiders or fancy Dutch trying to bring in tourism off of the PA Dutch. It's very counter, I think it's counterculture to the Mennonite and Amish faiths, but that doesn't mean that some superstitions do not linger, while ghosts are something many don't believe in. Demons very much are, so be careful what you get into.
So creepy.
Yeah, and I know you guys have some witchy-like ancestors, and this other person, Jordan, said, what's sad about the Hex murder is that the trial caused a lot of public ridicule for powwowers, and a lot of practicing stopped after that. I think Kutztown University has some info online about Dutch culture and powwow. My closest connection to it is my grandmother's grandmother, but the only story my grandmother tells is how she got rid of her warts under a full moon by rubbing a penny on it, talking in Dutch, and throwing the penny into the woods so it could never be looked for, back when a penny could get you some decent candy.
So it's also like because the virus lives for a year.
Yeah,
That's so curious. A lot of mystical things are from the civic religion, the pagan religion, and they were mixed in with Christianity. So then they just kind of combined and became a tradition.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because I also went to Catholic school in grade school and high school. And of course, like, anything sort of supernatural or occult-like was seen as like completely demonic. And even like my sister and I had gotten a Ouija board as kids for Christmas one year, and we tried to play with it, but then we got nothing happened, but we got so scared, like thinking about church, that our bedroom was on the second story, and we literally just threw it out the window. We were just we can't have this in the house.
So funny.
Yeah, so there's actually, I told you guys a little bit about this, but there's a form of divination, which is getting answers from a supernatural realm, and it's called oomancy or ovomancy. And apparently, I was looking into it, there are a ton of different things that you can do with eggs in witchcraft and powwowing, but I found this from pagermanpowwow.com. So, to determine if you have been bewitched or hexed, you rub a raw egg in the shell from the top of your head down the length of your body to your feet 3 times. You then break the egg into a dish or fireplace. If there's blood in the egg, it's a sign that negative witchery has been cast on you. So
if the egg's fertilized, then
if there's any blood in it. So, like, like you're making eggs, you crack it, and there's like a little spot of blood sometimes.
But I thought that means that it's fertilized. Yeah, it's a fertilized egg.
Fertilized.
I did not know that. You're educating me.
You can actually buy fertilized eggs too.
Most eggs are fertilized in the UK.
All of your eggs, Al, are going to have blood in it. Your head.
Well, though.
What is the purpose of buying a fertilized egg?
I think it has to do with like the makeup of, I don't know, amino acids or something. Like it's like
it means
better.
There's a rooster around wherever the chickens are.
Huh.
Or it tastes a little different or something, but yeah.
Well, we're gonna rub this egg
You're
on
rubbing
myself.
an egg around on you? That's hilarious.
And then I'll crack it, and then we'll see if I'm cursed. Let's see. Oh, geez. This was not as easy as I thought it would be. There's like a little dark spot in it.
No way.
I might be hexed. So now I gotta
What
find
are
a
you gonna
powwower. Probably nothing. I assumed, given this whole year, I assumed I was probably cursed. So
I think
it
I
all
need to
checks
come.
out.
I think I need to come clean. I think I hexed you.
You did it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, guess what? You are taller than me, and I'm gonna cut your hair off. So
No, I was saying I read
What
about
did-
that
what'd
egg
you-
thing, and they said a lot of times they read, you know, the white part in the egg that's sort of like, I don't know, it's just like a little bit of part of the egg. They sometimes read the shapes in the egg. Sort of like tea
Oh.
They'd interpret the shapes. Like tea
like
leaves.
tea leaves,
yeah, I saw that too. It was likened to tea leaves, and then I think there's also certain people perform cleansing rituals with eggs too. So like, if you do have anything negative with you, you can do a cleansing ritual. So who knew? Eggs are powerful.
And then you have to put them inside your house in the walls.
Yeah. I'm gonna punch a hole in my apartment wall and just start dumping eggs in there. I'm like, let's see. There's already a pandemic. My cat was in the hospital. I'm just gonna put eggs in the walls. So I asked you guys if you would be on the podcast because I know you have a very active haunted house in your family.
Haunted house situation.
Situation ongoing. Is that correct?
it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to start, Al? Because I know you did a lot of
Yeah,
the
sure.
research.
So our grandmother lives in a 3-story Victorian Italianate style house that she bought in the 60s, right after the previous owner, Maud Matlack, died. This was in a town called Haddonfield, New Jersey. Haddonfield is so small that it's a borough. It was originally Native American Lenni Lenape land until the earliest English people arrived. The first record of an English Quaker was called Francis Collins, arrived in 1632. The borough got its name, however, from the Haddon family. John Haddon bought 500 acres of land in what was then the English colony of West Jersey. They had to send a person out to claim the land. So he sent out his daughter Elizabeth to send out there by herself from Southwark, England in 1701. So the town is named after her father, but she's the one who founded it. She did all the hard work, and Dad got the credit. But anyways, it's been Haddonfield since around the 18th century. After that, it played a notable role in the Revolutionary War, and it was one of the first places dinosaur bones were excavated in America. So there's lots of history in Haddonfield.
Oh, wow.
It's also the place that Deborah Hill, the writer of the movie Halloween, lived. Our grandmother's house looks very similar to the Halloween house, which was also set in a town called Haddonfield. I mainly wanted to mention this because Deborah Hill used to babysit our mom.
Oh my God.
So BG, that's what we call our grandmother. Her house has been owned by 2 other owners within the same family. So it's the Matlacks and the Boggs. The house is a mirrored twin of the house next to it. They were built in 1868, and we think it was for 2 sisters. Maud Boggs, née Matlack, who lived in BG's house, was found dead of old age in the kitchen near the oven in 1961, and then BG bought it in 1960. We also found out Maud was related to Timothy Matlack, the man who physically wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
So with all that history, there's like tons of history, the house is definitely haunted. So the house has a typical Victorian circular floor plan, which means the staircase is at the center of the house, and the rest of the house kind of moves around it. So when you first go into the house, you either have to choose to go left past the library down the hallway to the kitchen, or you have to go right into the living room, and no one goes down the hallway. We noticed this. Even dogs won't go down the hallway. It's a spooky hallway.
It is.
My mom and I were discussing this one evening, safe in her non-haunted house in California at the time, and we started talking about all the creepy parts of the house, and then she was like, wait. She's like, let's write down each creepy part of the house and then compare them. And they were exactly the same. So the places we listed were the downstairs hallway, the space right next to the entrance to the stairs of the third floor. And when we discussed this recently, there's also the left room on the third floor in the front, we realized is really spooky, where a lot of the original furniture that came with the house is. The front area of Gigi's bedroom, the basement, and the green room closet. So we discussed each spot, and we could kind of realize we could vaguely describe who we thought was there, and they were the same descriptions.
There's a rock in front of the closet in the green room. So we called the green room. It's a bedroom in the back. We put a rock in front of the closet door because everyone gets creeped out by it.
But that's also the entrance to the back staircase that was boarded up.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys just get like really creepy feelings, or have you guys like seen and heard stuff?
So the basement is what we could describe most vividly. We both described a man standing in the left corner. He just watches you.
Oh my God.
And when the power goes out, you have to run down to the basement, the dark dirt floor basement, which is nightmare fodder unto itself. And you have to flip all the breakers in the pitch black while you know this man is in the left-hand corner.
Oh my God.
And the staircase
and then you run up the stairs like a crazy person. My mom said that she once asked me why I ran up the stairs when I was little. Like, she was like, why did you run up the stairs? And she knew why I ran up the stairs.
You said, what you said was, that man down there. I was like, yeah, there is a man down there. She was like, probably 10 years old. She came running up the stairs. I'm like, why did you run? Because I knew.
Isn't part of like in the basement, it is like a dirt floor, but like what I remember in the basement is like to the right, there's parts that are like opened or like exposed to like the under house. So yeah, you can access a crawl space.
The crawl space, no, don't even look in there.
It's like it's black abyss, like you can't see underneath it, but it's a hole.
I don't even know most of the details in there because I run in and run out.
Yeah,
I have no idea what's down there.
I went down there. I think I went down there once for like a while. And I think it was because, remember that trunk that Dad built me? Grandma like put it down there or something was down there and I had to be down there. And I remember being in that space for like at least 15 or 20 minutes, just like being down there. I mean, it was like lit, but I did not like it.
It's so spooky. The downstairs hallway has a metal register under the carpet runner halfway down. It's just near the radiator, and it makes like a muffled metallic clonk noise as you walk over it. And most of the time you hear people running, and then you hear it clonk and run down through the hallway. It's so spooky. Such a sound of that house.
Like the dogs would start to go that way, and they're like, no. And they go back.
No. Even little kids, like babies, won't go down there.
That always makes it extra scary when, like, someone who has like no concept of like what creepy or like a ghost is, like a baby or a dog, if they freak out, that's always like extra spooky.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna need like 5 eggs in your walls for that.
Yeah, we gotta get that house some eggs in the walls.
And chickens.
Isn't there a little girl there too?
That's the neighbor's ghost. She came to visit our little brother. All of
Yeah.
the neighbors' kids have seen this girl ghost. And our little brother was taking a nap on the couch in the living room, which is directly across from the twin house. And he said he woke up to a little ghost girl hugging him. And then my mom was talking to the neighbors, and they started talking about ghosts. And she mentioned the girl ghost that all their kids had seen. And my mom was like, that was she visited Johnny.
But they're not
So
bad.
freaky.
That's what I was saying. They're not like, you don't feel like it's an evil ghost. You just feel like something is in the room with you.
Something is there. Like BG's room. The front of the room, it's like a ghost paces the windows and the closet.
Like you just feel that moving around?
Yeah, I remember sleeping in BG's bed. I was alone in the house, and I suddenly realized that there was like definitely something hanging out right near the chair, which is right next to the bed, right next to the rotary telephone.
You know what's ridiculous too is sometimes like the light switches don't work, so you actually have to go turn on a fucking lamp. Sorry, I cussed. You have
That's
to
okay.
you have to turn on a lamp. So
You have to run.
You have to go into this dark space and go into this dark room and then go closest to the ghost to turn on the light. And you're just sitting there and you're like,
my mom and I were just talking. You have to like run into the room, turn it on.
but then the
yourself up,
lamps,
you're like, okay.
the lamps are like old oil lamps or something that she had converted, so they're not like perfect clicks. Like it's not like a dink and then it's on. It's like you're like turning and you're
Sometimes
like, why
you turn
are
it
you turning
5
on?
times.
Yeah.
So did BG ever say that she like encountered a ghost or like thought her house was
No,
haunted?
she doesn't see it.
Wow.
She's not a witch like my mom is, or we are.
It is so funny you say that because I was at Julia's house when James was over and they had like started talking about your mom and James just like no, like it was very positive. They were just like talking about like, you're cool and you're always doing like, different things with like plants and this and that. And James looks at me and goes, "No, my mom's a witch." And like he meant
Yes.
witch like witchy witch and was just like like I don't think I've seen anyone more dead serious about
No, but she
saying
has
their
like
mom was a witch.
an altar in her house. It's a table made from a ship door, and it's covered with pictures of us and feathers and seashells and sage.
You know what I
Oh,
think is the most witchy thing that
Crystals.
you do, Mom, and it drives me
What?
insane? This is crazy. I'm just going to put you on blast. This isn't like to put you on blast. My mom will scoop up sand at the beach and put it in her purse. Like, who puts sand in their purse?
Or like when you got into crystals, Julia, and then Mom was like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "I've been doing that for years, like years and years." Like swimming in the sea with crystals in her hand.
oh yeah, Julia got a special necklace so she could put the crystal in it and put it in the ocean to like charge it or cleanse it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom's going to tell you the contents of her purse.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have crystals in my purse at all times. And I have a feather that I found, and I have seashells, and some beach sand in the bucket.
You know what I think of? I think of like a chapstick or a lipstick that's full of sand.
Yeah.
Does it like
receipts? All your money at the bottom of your purse and sand.
Yes.
is it like pocket sand so you can like throw it at people when they bother you?
Get it right
Just
in
like
the
get it
eyes.
right in the eyes.
I have like a huge bowl full of shells, feathers, a little bird nest, flowers that I make like smudge sticks out of. I pick flowers around and dry them and make my own sticks. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Did
Does
I-
that
Ma-
stuff hold significance? Like, does it like mean like anything for like energy
I
or
don't know.
anything
It
like
kind of
that?
does for me. It's stuff I like. I don't know. I just like if I'm at something.
Keeping things you love.
I find little seashells and I throw them in my purse from wherever I am. I found some in the Delaware River, little tiny shells, and I took them home in a rock. And I do it.
Just good juju.
Yeah, I keep it all in a big bowl. And I throw it sometimes. I leave it out.
Mom, I think Dad is also becoming a witch in his later life. You're like, no, he's not allowed.
I just said like Lutheran, Taoist, Buddhist, and now a witch. Our
No,
dad.
he brings me sage all the time. He like picks it on his hikes and he like dries it out. And then last time he was in Catalina, he brought me a big old abalone shell.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's either that or it's all the hallucinogens he took in the 60s that are like coming out.
His stories. He's some ghost.
And probably the 2000s.
He has a story about a house in Haddonfield where he saw a man with like a flaming head. It was blue flames. But he was like, I don't know if it was like a ghost or it was
psychedelics.
Hallucinogenic.
It was just a real guy who was like, I need help. And your dad was like, that is a crazy ghost.
Trippy, man.
I'm on fire.
He's like, it's a ghost.
I can tell you the one scary story about my mom's house. Like after I came back there, after living in California for a long time, I was by myself in the house and I was sort of half asleep, taking a nap, and I heard like the front door open. I heard like somebody coming up the stairs and I was like, nobody's here. Who is that? I could hear it, but I was like, I couldn't like move. And then I heard like buzzing, like from one ear, went across my face to the other. You know, if you put your hand near your ear, you feel like an energy. I felt that. I kind of went across me. And I finally was able to sit up and I looked around. There was nothing there. But I feel like that might have been the girl ghost next door coming over or something, or somebody just like wondering what I was doing there. But I read about it because I was like, did I have a stroke or something? And it's like almost like a sleep paralysis, but they say it's like a ghost kind of a thing. The ghost kind of like scans over you. I could hear something coming up the stairs, and I was like, I wonder who that is. And it wasn't anybody.
I'm just thinking that sounds like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, but I could hear
like through history. Through history.
It blocks sound, and then I heard it on the other side, and then it went away.
You know what that made
so
me think
freaky.
of? Mom, do you remember when you saw that angel person like pretty recently and they told you like the amount of energy it takes for somebody on the other side to like send you a message is like immense or something? That's what it made me think of.
Like you see, what you feel is just a small portion of what the effort that they're putting out to try to like signal somebody or communicate or be seen or whatever is huge. But yeah, you're just seeing a little tiny bit of it. Yeah.
I usually get contacted in my dreams. I have dreams where stuff happens before it happens. Or I have like locations I've never been to or locations that I haven't been to for a very long time.
Wow.
What's the word for that again?
Astral projecting?
No, when you felt it before. Deja vu.
Deja vu. I get deja vu all the time.
I get deja vu all the time too. What'd you say, Ma? You're having it right now?
That's so crazy. Well, I mean, you guys all have like experiences or like feelings, and you said that even like your great grandmother did like tea leaf readings, right?
Great grandmother. Or grandmother's grandmother. Was it
She was my
Appolina?
great grandmother.
She was. Appolina was your grandmother.
Great grandmother.
No, great grandmother.
All right. Great, great,
Okay.
great.
Appolina, she apparently had like a phenomenal green thumb. She can make anything grow. She was Czech, and so she had these weird pastiches of names for plants. Like rhododendron was rhododendron,
Rhododendron.
and BG says she had really soft, silky skin and beautiful white hair. But she could read tea
Wow.
leaves.
She was into premonitions and don't ever do this because it's bad, and little, I don't know, kind of, like don't put shoes on a table, and stuff like that.
Mm.
Or you'll die. That's a thing in Scotland. Yeah, whenever you drop something, she yells, "Company!"
No, it's silverware.
Silverware. Oh, silverware.
Do you know
yeah.
that? It's like if you
Yeah.
drop a knife, a strange man's going to come to your door or something like that. Shannon, have you
And
ever
if you
heard of
sing
this?
at the
I think I
if you
remember
sing at the
you
dinner
telling
table,
me
you'll marry a
that.
crazy man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And so anytime anybody drops silverware at my grandma's house, she yells, "Company!"
Oh god, that is the idea that like if that is true that some creep is going to show up at your door is so scary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it on purpose.
It's really cool though. You guys come from like a long line of like witchy people.
Before I moved to Scotland, BG predicted I would marry a redheaded man with a beard, which is statistically, pretty likely. But she was right.
What were you saying, Ma?
No, I was
It had
saying
to do with
I
us
think
being
I'll be
With us
witches.
being
born
witches.
with like the ability to like feel things and see things. Remember Johnny with the cat? Like he would be able to tell you what animal was saying.
Mm.
You would change his
He would
diction.
change his diction. He would change his diction and tell us what the cat said.
What?
He said, one day my mom was like, "What's the cat saying, Johnny?" And he looked at her and he said, "I'm empty."
Oh
That's
my
all the
god.
cat say.
How old was he?
5, maybe.
Yeah, he was
He
a little
actually
girl.
saw a ghost
Yeah.
dog too. One of his favorite dogs died, and he woke up in the middle of the night. He was like, "Peanut was just in my room." Peanut loved Johnny more than anything. And he said Peanut came to his room after she died. I think she really did.
Annie visited me when she died. You know how like you can feel a cat jump on your bed? Like the vibration of a cat jumping on your bed? I didn't know that she was being put to sleep. But I felt that night, I felt like the vibration of a cat jumping on the bed. But I just kind of was like, oh, whatever. I just felt weird. And then the next day, you told me that Daddy had put Annie to sleep.
You
So
guys are
she
giving
had
me
like
the
just come to
chills.
say, she just came to say bye. She was the Rebbittson down the road, when we lived over on Shenandoah, said that she was a Gilgul.
Yeah, she recognized her as like
A Gilgul is someone who either had too short a life or didn't live a life well in Jewish mysticism, so they had to come back as something different. But it's based off of what they did in their last life.
Oh
They said she was a
wow.
person, and people were creeped out by her. She had like people eyes. Looked like she looked like she knew what you were saying.
She was a calico, kind of like Sophie.
Oh.
Shannon has a cat that's a calico.
Oh
my mom,
God.
I'll roast myself. My mom got really mad at me because my mom wanted me to give her like a back massage, like squeeze her shoulders. And I told her that I couldn't do it because I'm an empath.
yeah.
And she was like, "No, you're not."
We were just like, really?
That is a great excuse, though.
Yeah.
It's just so on brand.
I'm really sorry I can't. I'm an empath. And they're like, we need you to come to work if you want to get paid. Like, I'm really sorry. It'll really affect me and throw me off for the whole day.
Yeah.
I can't absorb your energy.
Oh my
That's
god.
great.
Well, thank you guys for letting me tell you a creepy story. Thank you for sharing your creepy stories. I cannot believe that BG has never had an experience of like everyone in your family plus animals has.
She's probably
And
friends
maybe
with all of them.
maybe she puts the lights and all the switches in those spots to screw with you guys. So you have to walk past a ghost.
She just like hangs out with all the time. And then when we come over, she's like, shh, shh.
Yeah, you guys, get back in Lisa's closet in her room. Put the rock back in front of her.
Yeah, put the rock back. We're gonna screw with them this time.
I've had a rock in front of that door since I was a little kid. I would just look at the closet and see if it opened or not. I put a rock in front of it when I was little. It was my room. I was convinced. I knew there was stuff in there. And I just...
Oh
Yeah,
my
it is creepy
God.
when it's open. There's also, I think the scariest place for me in the whole house is the space in between the third floor stairs.
Yeah, where the loo roll's kept. Or
Yeah.
toilet paper. Sorry.
Thanks,
The
Madonna.
toilet paper.
Special guest Madonna talking about ghosts. No, it is really, it's like, that's another friggin' light switch that you have to like manually turn on. And it's one of those light switch that BG insists is like always on. She has like weird lights that she always wants on or off or whatever.
And
So
it
she's
doesn't
always
work.
like,
It's like the dimmest light in the house.
yeah.
So spooky.
Do you
And
guys
it's how you have
think
to
that
get into the third floor.
do you guys think the ghosts are like near all the switches and the breaker boxes because they need that energy to like be with you?
Isn't that like in Ghostbusters?
It's in like a lot of ghost stuff. Like people
Yeah.
think that if you're seeing or like encountering a ghost that they need to pull from an energy source to come to like this side. So that's why like a lot of people, if your house or like, you know, a structure is like near running water or if your lights flicker or something, they think like the reason for that is because the paranormal side is pulling from that energy to manifest themselves in a way.
Maybe.
Probably.
There's
Sounds
a well
real.
under the back porch.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
it's buried. Yeah. There's a big fern growing
No,
over
it's
it.
under.
This
There's an
house
outhouse
needs
out
to be
there, too.
investigated.
And a barn.
And you know what I think is the scariest thing in the whole world? Like real life scary thing? Those sinking holes.
What?
She has a sinking hole in her backyard.
Yeah, but that was like a trash thing. That was like,
I know, but they're real life scary. They're real life scary.
yeah.
Not ghost scary.
Because you're
They're
just
like,
scared. You're just scared of volcanoes and sinking things.
We need
Julia has a real fear of volcanoes.
Oh, my favorite fear of Julia's that also scares the shit out of me is if you look out the window from a second story floor or higher that you will see someone floating in front of your window.
real fear. That's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
One of my like constant fears when I was little is that I would look out the window and Bigfoot would walk past it. I was like always concerned. Like in our suburban neighborhood.
One of my more recent fears is that I'll look into a mirror and there won't be a reflection.
You're a vampire.
And then I'll like have learned that I'm dead or something. That's a real life fear.
PG since 1996.
Well, I've been looking into like, you know, all the different like creepy, spooky topics, and there's a lot of scary stuff involving mirrors. So
oh yeah.
I get freaked out by them. I won't look at them if it's dark out. Even like the windows, I get really freaked out at night, and I'll just like close, all the curtains and stuff. And even last night, I was like fashioning the curtains around the air conditioner, like the wall unit, to make sure that the window was still covered. And my boyfriend was like, "Are you making it less scary for us?" And I was like,
Okay,
"Yeah."
Shannon had a real life scary thing happen though in our window.
Oh my god, I did.
You
So
have to
Was
tell
it a
them.
flying teenage vampire?
No,
I
it was a real
wish.
life scary, not like sinking hole real life scary.
Yeah. So in like 2017, I moved into this apartment building, but a different unit. Like I had a roommate, and I was really excited because I had to move, like I had to move my cats and stuff. And I thought I was really lucky because I found a place that would take 2 cats, and it was like in a nice neighborhood. It was, close to my friends, close to Julia. And like maybe a week or 2 after I moved in, I was like setting stuff up, and I invited Julia over, and there was a 10-foot long window in the bedroom, and I opened the blinds, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm really happy about this window because there's a tree out there and the cats get to, watch the birds and squirrels and stuff." And she was like, "Oh, and you don't have a screen in that window, so it makes it easier to see out." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I go over and look, and the screen, there were 2 sliding windows on the ends of the long, section of window, and one of them had the screen taken off and placed like correctly on the ground. Like it wasn't like it fell off and it was thrown. So then I look, and there's a face smudge on the glass.
Mhm.
Like a greasy, you could make out like the bottom half of like the nose and the bottom half of the
Oh my
And there
face. And there were finger swipes on the window that had the screen removed. And so I like called the non-emergency police line to report it. And it was really weird because we were on the ground level, but there was like a concrete wall and a concrete porch out there. So someone had to have scaled like a 6 or 7 foot tall wall, or, hopped a gate or something to get over there. And when I looked through the blinds, like I had the blinds closed, they were where the face smudge was, you could see my bed
Yeah.
Yeah.
through the blinds.
Okay.
And like it was really impressive. I don't understand why they went to these lengths, but like the cops came out and took a report, and they sent a fingerprint person out. So the fingerprint person was like, "Well, good news. I do see what you saw. There was a report filed. The bad news is it looks like the person was wearing gloves because I'm unable to pull any
That's even
fingerprints."
spookier.
And I remember they were like asking me a timeline. Do I remember hearing anything? And Sophie never really makes it, like she like cries and like meows a lot, but she doesn't growl. And I remember specifically on May 4th, I'm in bed and I'm trying to go to sleep, and I hear her doing this like deep growl. She's sitting in that window and growling. And I was like, "That's weird. I guess there's like, I don't know, some sort of animal out there that she doesn't like." And now, like, to this day, I think she must have seen someone. And like I got up and like turned on lights and stuff. And I do think that they went to the lengths of like sending out a fingerprint person because it must have been connected to some sort of like other event or other
Yeah.
crime in the area, because LAPD does not care about a lot of stuff. And it must have been serious for them to have sent that guy out.
Gosh.
Yeah. She also lives near the Manson, one of the Manson houses, right?
Yeah, on my street is one of the families. It was a couple that the Manson family had murdered, and it's down the street from me.
Yeah. They're
One of
like
the,
in
one of the followers of Charles Manson went to our high school.
What?
Yeah. One of the girls.
They were just brainwashed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is weird. There's a lot of really creepy real life stuff, and like a lot of people think like supernatural stuff is real life, But, I don't know of a ghost that would try to break into your house to, I don't know,
Wearing
steal stuff or
gloves.
murder you. Wearing gloves. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, the gloves thing is what really sent me over the edge, where I was just like, well, they were not here to help me redecorate things.
Shannon, we went camping. Shannon brought a screwdriver.
No, I
to
brought a
sleep
hammer.
with. Oh, a hammer.
Well, because
You
I
sleep
listened.
with it under your pillow.
Well, I also when after that happened, I slept with a screwdriver on my nightstand because
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that's
like,
where it was. Yeah.
and I had a hammer first, and then I downgraded to a screwdriver because I was like, if I had some sort of other weapon, I would likely hurt myself with it before I hurt an intruder. And I was like, well, a hammer and a screwdriver, that's whatever. And then I started dating my boyfriend, who I'm still with now, and he looked at my nightstand and was like, I'm not going to ask why you have that out. But then I've heard a lot of creepy stories about like things going wrong while camping. So when Julia and I went camping several times, I brought a hammer because it helps with like ground stakes, like, hammering the stakes
Yeah,
for
it's
the tent
useful.
down. But also, I'm going to protect me and Julia if someone is trying anything funny.
Utilitarian weapons.
Because you could just sleep and she'll just hammer people for you in case they come.
Yeah.
I'll just sleep through the night.
Yeah, I'm like, as long as I can borrow your Birkenstocks, I'll protect this tent household. All right. Well, guys, I am very appreciative of you taking your family like FaceTime meeting time to talk to me about ghosts and murderers. If any listeners have a spooky story they want me to read on a future listener episode, they can submit it by emailing story@thiswillscareyou.com. If anybody wants to follow Allie, she can be found on Instagram at allison.g.everett. And people can follow This Will Scare You on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at This Will Scare You. And be sure to subscribe and review and let us know your own personal spooky stories. And that's about it. I still don't have a sign off, so I'm just saying goodbye to people. Do you guys have any suggestions for a sign off for the show?
I think you should find like an old chant. Yeah. Like boil, toil. Like something, like a cauldron.
Okay.
Chant.
I'm gonna do
See you later, witches.
I'm gonna try out what you guys just suggested. Woo! Boil, toil. See you later, witches.
Sounds great. It worked.